Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Age Group Triathlon podcast. This week, I have Graham Hardy from 113 Events joining me on the show to give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, a bit of an insight into behind the scenes everything that goes on when arranging a triathlon. Now, I've arranged a couple of events myself, but they've been really quite small. So I wanted to get a proper expert on to really help athletes appreciate sort of everything that goes on in the background. Not only that, but also to give you a few tips on how to make sure that you finish your events, how to perform well, the kind of mistakes that he really sees a lot as a race director. Everything from people failing to finish, from not having their bikes properly set up, all the way through to making sure that you have all the kit with you that you need on race day, the items that are most forgotten. So, hope this is going to be a really interesting episode. Now, before we get started, a lot of podcasts will either run ads or have a Patreon to help sort of keep themselves going to cover their costs. That is something, there is no way that I'm ever running ads on this podcast, I promise you that. But equally, the Patreon model, I also have a bit of a problem with, because the idea is, oh, why don't you give us sort of £5, £10 or dollars a month, and we'll give you a free episode once a month. To me, that's not really that valuable. But I understand there may be a lot of people listening to this who go, wow, like I really appreciate what Simon's doing with these podcasts, but I can't afford to sort of get one of his bespoke coach programs, which start at sort of £60 a month. Like, there's no way I can afford that. But yeah, I would just, I'd like to show my appreciation somehow. So I've launched a Phase On Triathlon Swim Club. Now, the way this works is there are 3 swim sets you get each week to choose from. You have a very beginner focused set, which is short, around about the 1500 metre mark. You have one that's more of an intermediate set, around the 2000, 2500 metre mark. And then you have a longer swim. It's designed more for more experienced swimmers. And the idea of these is it just helps keep a little bit of variety in your swim training. Focus on different things. We rotate between endurance swims, technique swims, and sort of speed work, faster swims, threshold work, intervals, all of that in the colder months. Then when we get to the summer, we drop the endurance work, because we do that in the open water, and we alternate between technique and harder swims. Now, you can get all these professionally designed swim programs for £10 per month. And this is a way for you to help support the podcast with a little token amount, as well as getting these swim sets. And in addition to that, I'm also going to throw in access to my education platform. Now, my education platform I've launched to be a bit of a leveler in the sport. A lot of people come into the sport that are overwhelmed with the amount of information. There's a number of things they're expected to know, such as how to ride in a group, how to buy a pair of running shoes, what different exercises are, which for those of us that are many triathletes, we're starting the sport from a position where we're not experienced runners. We don't know how to lane swim correctly, all of this. I've created this education platform. It's a huge work in progress. The idea is it will fill in the knowledge gaps to help you really get up to speed. We've got loads of there in nutrition as well. There's a lot of information in there. That is worth £5 a month on its own. You can get that and the access to the swim club for only £10 per month if you would like to support the podcast. Now, the link is in the show notes, along with my email, if you are interested in the bespoke coaching that I offer. Right, with all that done, let's get on with the interview. Hello, Graham. Welcome to the Age Group Triathlon podcast. For those of you who are unaware, Graham is the owner and race director at 113 Events. Are you joiner or joint owner, actually?
And well, me and Nikki. So me
You
and
and
Nikki
Nikki,
are both
between the
directors.
two.
My wife,
Yeah,
Nikki.
the power couple.
Yeah,
Um,
well, she has the power. I just do what I'm told.
Very wise. If you could just give people a little bit of an introduction into you and what it is that you do in your own words, I'm sure people would be interested to hear that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me along. Yeah, my name's Graham. Simon said I run 113 events. We run two at the moment. We run two middle distance triathlons from the Cotswold Water Park.
hmm And how long have the races been? How long have you been doing the races for?
They've been going. So Cotswold 113, which is our main race, has been going since 2011, and then that grew into two races in 2012.
Yeah.
And when we introduced the Cotswold Classic, we did a long distance race in 2015 15, 16, and 17, which we called the Cotswold 226, which
I
was
remember
like
that.
an iron distance race,
Yeah.
it was a good race and we enjoyed it, but it's a long day for me and my team. So yeah, that came to an end in 17.
Oh,
Then in 17, 18, and 19, we took over and ran the Swindon Half Marathon,
okay.
which
Excellent.
aged me about 40 years in 3 years of running that race. It was
Really?
very
So
different.
even though, a half marathon, I know it's not a third of a triathlon, but even though that you don't have the whole water safety and the whole sort of managing a bike course, it was just all of the paperwork and all the stress that came with an event of that size. Is that
Yeah, I mean, it was
the
dealing with people really was the most difficult
mm,
part.
best avoided?
Predominantly councils. So our
Yeah,
local council, I'll give you the 30-second version.
yeah,
They
yeah.
had the commercial side of the council, which is the non-elected side,
Mm,
had a chairman who was a runner. The Swindon Half Marathon in its old format, which is very hilly out of town,
yeah.
died maybe 3 or 4 years before we started the new one, the new Swindon Half, as we called it.
Mm,
He was our champion within the council, and he made the process simple. He
great.
facilitated approvals here, and when we had meetings, if someone kicked up a fuss, he'd step in and interject and help us out. And
Mm,
about halfway through the running of the first year of the race, he left, took a consultancy job at an energy company, and the
okay.
commercial side of the council became like a rudderless ship or a captainless ship.
Mm,
And we went from dealing with a fairly easy council to dealing with a really awkward council.
hmm.
Very, very difficult. Almost like, I don't want to speak too badly of them, but
No.
it was almost like one department would go out its way to try and stitch up another department. And there was a lot
Yeah.
of inter-department hassle, and
Hmm.
it just made the race really difficult. But we had a good
Yeah.
corporate sponsor. We had Nationwide Building Society, their head
Great.
office in Swindon. Their chairman
Yep.
at the time, although he used to live in Switzerland, was a triathlete, actually did our one of our Cotswold 113 races.
Brilliant.
So he was brilliant in terms of corporate sponsorship. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was dealing, triathletes are lovely, but typically lovely people to deal
Mm,
with.
yep.
Runners were somewhat more difficult. The general public, we
Mm,
had a town centre start and finish. We closed 13.1 miles of road
yep.
through the town centre and around most of the housing estates. And it was
Great.
just dealing there's always, I did some work for Andrew, who used to run Bath Half Marathon. So
Hmm.
I kind of knew what we were getting into, and he was brilliant. He was very helpful with it. But just dealing with the general public and road closures and just all the hassle that
Yeah.
comes with it was awkward. But yeah, aged me significantly over the 3 years.
So, touching on what you said there about road closures. Now,
Yeah,
this is something that a lot of people when they're looking for a triathlon, they think, oh, I really want to do a triathlon with closed roads.
yeah,
And of course, Ironman being the biggest organizer of middle to long distance triathlons in the world, one of their things is that all of their courses are either completely or for the very vast majority on closed roads.
yeah.
However, the vast majority of race organizers can't close the roads for their events. Can you just give us a little bit of an insight into why that is, why you host your races on open roads?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to that discussion, really. The first is the roads around the Cotswolds. We start 6:30 in the morning, so we do start early. The reason being is in the water park where we base our races, the roads are typically really, really quiet first thing in the morning. They don't really start getting any traffic on them at all until about 11, which is when all the local facilities like the beach and the country park open.
Yeah.
Also, on the first element of that is we we go through lots of small villages and towns in the Cotswolds, which we've got a really good relationship with. We engage with the
Yeah.
parish council, we letter drop them. They're happy for the races. They've been going through there twice a year now for 12, 13 years. So they know to kind of keep off the roads that time in the morning. If we then
Hmm.
went and closed the roads, we'd meet a lot of objection because it's not that they want to drive in the morning, but they want to have the option. And they do know that if they get up on a Sunday morning and go, I've got to take little Johnny to football, or I've got to go to church for 10 o'clock, then I'm
Yeah.
going to drive, but I'm going to accept there's going to be some delay because I'm probably going to need to go the same speed as a cyclist,
Yeah.
for the next 4 or 5 miles rather than to drive along that road at 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour. Whereas if we close the roads, we take that option out, and I think we'd meet a lot of objection. So
Hmm.
it would be we do it once, and I think we probably would it'd be the end of the races maybe,
Yeah.
or that certainly make it very difficult. I mean, I really like we engage with the parish councils quite a lot. And I like going to the parish council meetings because when I go there, they go, Graham, I love your races. It's brilliant. What dates are they coming through this year? And they come out and they cheer and they support and they make little
Oh wow,
signs and they really get
great.
behind it, which is brilliant. Whereas I don't want
Yeah.
to be going to those parish meetings going, bloody hate your races. You're an arsehole. I can't believe you're
Yes.
closing my
Yeah.
roads. And
Yeah.
I'm not because I have a face to everything. So I do everything at the races and I engage with the people. I
Mm.
meet all the people and I've got to know them really well over the last 13 years. And I want to remain, I want to keep that good relationship. I want to be able to sleep at night without knowing I've upset people.
Yeah.
And then
For
second,
those unaware of sort of the way where the race is situated, it's in the very sort of south of the Cotswolds, and yeah, like you say, the roads are really very quiet. But also there isn't the same network of roads that you get in more urban areas. So if you were to close a road, then there may be no real alternative for a diversion.
no, exactly. If we took the Cotswold 113 course as it was last year, for example,
Mm.
if we closed that course, we'd basically landlock 5,000 people homes.
Yeah.
We'd be in all sorts of trouble.
Well,
And
that's
there's businesses on the route that
yeah. Yeah.
don't get much business on a Sunday morning, but they don't want to not have that business at all. They'd be coming to
Yeah.
me for a claim. They'd look at
Yeah.
their bill subsequently and go, Graham, you owe me £1 zillion,
Yeah.
even though you've only sold 2 packs of eggs and a bottle of milk on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, the relationship side of it is really important to me. And
Hmm.
I think anyone who's done our races and done a lot of other races, myself included, you'll see that people do tend to get behind the race and support it, especially on the run course and the bike course. And then the
Yeah.
other side to that is the economic side of it. Closing roads is ludicrously expensive. I mean, I've never priced up the cost of closing the roads for our course. But if you use the Swindon Half Marathon, for example, the cost of closing 13.1 mile of road was not far off £75,000.
Wow.
So it is if we were then to close a 28-mile loop because our 56-mile bike course is two
Yeah.
laps, if you just extrapolate it out, it's £150,000.
Yeah.
And the reason, I mean, Ironman do. I'm not slating the Ironman race. I think Ironman do a
No.
brilliant job of what they do.
Yeah.
But if you look at their events from a commercial perspective, so let's use Bolton for example. I know Bolton's not there anymore,
Yeah.
but Bolton City Council will pay Ironman to be there. So Ironman
Mm.
charged them a hosting fee, 150,000 pounds, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Then within that hosting fee, they'll have stipulation where Bolton City Council also have to close the roads for them.
Yeah.
So they don't pay for stuff like that, and like a lot of races, they're big enough where they can go to the councils and go, well, we've got 2,000 people racing in our race, most of them
Yeah.
because Ironman's a destination race. They'll come for 4 or 5 days. So
Yeah.
we're going to fill 1 million hotel rooms, 250,000 people over 4 nights or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we can bring £1 zillion to the local economy. So the council then subsequently bend over backwards to help them.
Yeah.
Whereas the Cotswolds are very much a holiday destination anyway,
Hmm.
and it's very popular. And it's always popular in the summer. So whether our races were there or weren't there, it would still be popular. So the district council that we deal with for the Cotswolds and then Gloucestershire and Wiltshire highways or Gloucestershire and
Mm.
Wiltshire councils like our races and they're brilliant, but they don't support us financially in that respect.
Yeah.
So we use rather than closing roads, we use police and traffic management contractors.
Yep.
So we have, I think we have 14 CSAS accredited, which is the highest accreditation traffic management officers. It's not just a
Hmm.
lot of lady, so they
Yeah.
can enforce stoppages and close sections of road, or they can stop and start traffic. And then we have maybe 9 or 10 police out on the course in various points, which are kind of not because we need police at those sections,
Mm.
but they're intersections with busier roads where we stop the cars to let the bikes go through to give them right of way. And actually, the police just provide a better level of visual authority to a TM
Yeah.
contractor. If the
Yeah.
car comes around a corner and they see a police stop ahead sign and then a police car and then a series of police officers stopping traffic, they'll stop.
Yeah.
Even though the traffic management contractor's got exactly the same authority, they might come around and go, get a bloody way, I'm going to drive through, I'm going to be late for football or something, whereas to a police officer, they're not
Mm.
going to do that. So we use the police and we pay the police. We've got a great reputation, a great relationship with the police simply
Hmm.
because they just add that level of authority. We don't
Yeah.
get any problems, but if we do, they're there and they're good for it.
Brilliant. Yeah. I remember I was marshalling at a road race sort of many years ago, and we had permission to close the road when we were there, and we had a traffic marshal. But I was there with a high vis, and sort of you hold out the red flag because the peloton are going to come along. And the amount
Yeah.
of drivers who scream at you don't have permission to close the roads and that. But yeah, as soon as you have somebody
Which
there,
in
as soon as you
fairness,
have a police
legally
car
is
parked up.
Yeah, in
for
fairness,
somebody in
legally it's
uniform.
true. So unless you're Chapter 8 or CSAS accredited or any of the other road safety accreditations or
Yeah,
certifications, you can't legally stop traffic.
yeah,
But when we put that we put that in our marshals briefing. Marshals
yep.
do get enthusiastic and they try and do it, but the marshals briefing does say you physically legally you can't stop traffic. So if you stand in the middle of the road and put your hand up,
Oh
or you
yeah,
wave a flag in front of someone, you try and stop a car, not that they're
yeah,
going to run you over, but you're in the wrong if they do.
yes, yeah,
Whereas a TM contractor can. But I mean, we have marshals who work in conjunction with TM contractors. So the TM contractor will stop a car, and then the marshals will wave the cyclist through. Or if there's a gap between bikes, then the marshal can still wave the car through. They just can't physically make the
yeah,
stopping action. But they
yeah,
they do it. We have 150, 200 marshals on our course, and people try and help out as much as they can, and they do try and stop traffic. And generally, the traffic just get no problem. It's fine. They can see
yeah.
there's 50 runners coming along the road, so they're not gonna purposely pull out in front of them and not let them go through. And
Yeah.
where all our run course is through one, it's around Three Lakes, which is all private property anyway, so you don't
Yeah.
get cars in there. And then we go through one very small village where all the residents really get behind the race anyway. So we don't ever get problems with that side of things. But it's one of
No,
those, it's like a legal headache waiting to happen if something does happen. So we have
of course. Yeah.
we have to tick all the boxes to ensure that everybody knows actually this is your responsibility and this is what we'd like you to do, but this is what you physically legally can't do.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
So on the subject of marshals, can you just explain kind of how important they are to the running of any race?
Oh, they're for us, they're everything. They're absolutely everything. So we have 150 to 200 marshals. We pay them all. So they get
Mm.
either £20 cash or a £50 113 events voucher. We typically pair them up so they have fun. They're not just stuck on a roundabout going turn left, turn left, turn left
Yep.
for 4 or 5 hours. We feed them. So we give them like a free rein in the Lake 32 cafe for burgers and
Yep.
coffee. If it's a cold or wet day, then we'll take bacon rolls or a vegetarian option and hot drinks out to their marshal points for them. And they
Yep.
get food and drink whether they're there. We give them a free event shirt. We invite them along. We do like a post race beer where
Yep.
the whole team go to the pub. We basically we tear the race down in a couple of hours, chuck it
Yep.
all in a big tent, and then we sort it all out Monday, Tuesday. So about 5 o'clock on a Sunday, we take as many marshals that want to come along for a beer and a pizza afterwards. But we get our reputation, and I'm really proud of it. Is like if when we do feedback forms for our races, or if we do
Mm.
race checks or Facebook posts that people interact with, the first thing people always say is your marshals are amazing. And every race
Yeah.
says we've got the best marshals in the sport, but I genuinely think we've got some of the best marshals in the sport. And we try and make them enthusiastic, make them be
Mm.
happy. The runners
Yeah.
have their names, or the competitors will have their names on the top. And we kind of say, like, interact with the runners. If someone's running
Yeah.
along, say, go on, Gail, you're doing well, or go on, Steve, one lap to
Yep.
go, and that interaction feeds back. And then it's contagious, and we get a lot of clubs come along and help. So we get a club take over an aid station who work for us as marshals, and they
Excellent.
bring their own atmosphere as well. And
Yeah.
like I said, marshals, we couldn't do the race without marshals. There's nowhere on the run course where you physically can't see a marshal. We've got so many marshals on the bike course, so you physically can't get lost.
Yeah.
We put out 250 odd arrows anyway, so you can't get lost. But the marshals mean everything to the race, and having them makes our race what it is. Without them, we just simply couldn't do it. I mean, it could be like the old days, like back when I used to race, when I first started racing, where you pretty much you'd have a 60-mile bike course with about 4 arrows, and you'd have to try and memorize the course yourself. And
Yeah.
you go around the course, you see someone riding completely the wrong direction, and they go, "Are you going the right way? Am I going the right way?" Whereas
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yeah.
the
All
world has
flying.
changed. Everyone
Yeah.
wants mollycoddling through the directions. You don't have to think about where you're going, even though you probably got it on your Garmin anyway.
Yeah.
Marshals are super important to us. So like I say, we have 150 to 200 paid marshals.
Mm.
And then on top of that, we've got a core team, which is made up of about 16 on race weekend. So they're
Yep.
separated between race control, water safety, coordination,
Yeah.
course, run course, finish line, massage team, transition area,
Yep.
general runners who just they go and get stuff if they need to go and get stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like our main team. They're people who've been with us for the whole time. They're friends of mine and Nikki's. They're sort of paid properly, and then we have Christmas dues, and we sort of look after those guys as well. But looking after people is so important, And a lot of our marshals of the general on course marshals and transition marshals of the 150 200, about half of them are regulars who just come and do all our races with us.
Yep.
they become like part of the main team and family as well, people we know.
Yeah.
And that's it's brilliant for the sport. They make the sport. I can't be me and Shouty Dave, who works with us, can't be everywhere on the course trying to make people feel infused,
Yeah.
support them, whereas the marshals can.
Yeah.
There are eyes and ears from an official point of view, from a coordination point of view. There
Mm.
are eyes and ears on the course, but from a competitor interaction point of view, they are what brings the atmosphere and what brings the
Mm.
enthusiasm, and picks people up when they're down. A lot of people, we get feedback from competitors who say, I was on the second lap of the run course and my body had given up on me and I just had enough. And I wasn't going to finish. And I felt I had a little bit of a tear in my eye.
Yeah.
And one of your marshals just had a chat with me and said, look, you've got this, put their arm around them, walked the next 300 meters with them and talked them into walking around the rest of the course. And
Yeah.
you've done our race,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't attract. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. So we get our fastest times orders around 4 hours.
Yeah.
Our longest times are normally 8.5, 9 and a bit hours.
Yeah.
The 4 hour guys, I respect what they do, and I do respect what they do, and I like having them along at the race. And when I was racing, that was me 4 and a bit hours something.
Yeah.
In actual fact, I can kind of take or leave them. What I want to see is I want to see the people who cross the finish line at 7.5, 8.5 hours, and the elation in their face and their eyes as they've achieved something they never thought was possible. That's the end of the field we cater the race for. And that's, you won't see me at the finish line around that 4 hours from the start mark, just because I'm busy with other stuff, but I don't make the time to go there because I've not got a huge amount of interest in it. And then the finish line team will deal with all those guys.
Yeah.
Whereas actually from about 6 hours into the race, you won't see me away from the finish line.
Yeah.
Because I want to see those stories. I want to see the people who've been emailing me 3 times a week for the last 5 months because they're nervous not going to get around. I want to see them across the finish line. I want to give them a hug and congratulate them and see that achievement that they've made. That 8 months or 10 months earlier they never thought was possible. My team is the same. Everyone on the team is basically the same. They some of them will go, oh, bloody hell, we're here till like 4 o'clock waiting for people. And it's like, yeah, but watch when they cross the line and look at that elation, look what they've achieved. And that's why it's worth it. That's why we sit around.
I think for the last sort of 3 years or so, I've been part of the teardown team, so sort of pulling apart transition at the end. And you get to the point where, when you've only got like a dozen bikes left in transition, that you start sort of taking the fencing down and you start, and by the time that the very last finishers get there, it's just one little piece of scaff tubing with their bike on it.
Yeah, we have one bit of transition racking with about 4 bits of fencing and about 4 people stood around it.
But they are grinning from ear to ear. Everyone who has ever, nobody's ever been grumpy at the fact that we moved their bike so that we could get this down. We're all sat there and there's sort of half a dozen people there waiting to go have a drink and a pizza, but they're not going, oh, sorry. They are just like so happy, so made up.
Yeah.
That they got round. And for the last kind of 90 minutes, when you're doing the teardown, you're just kind of watching people walk around the run course, the last that are coming round. But again, often with like something, even like marshals walking with them.
Yeah.
Somebody who said,
yeah,
I want to make sure that this person gets round.
Yeah. And we always say to people, it's not fair on our full marshal team to hold 80 people on the run course for 2 people who are walking around. So what we do is we go down to a skeleton staff and we'll put Dave or Mark or one of our guys with the runner. So they'll walk around with them or they jog around with them or they take their mountain bike and go around with them. They've got a radio. So they've got a mobile aid station. If they need something, then Dave or Mark will radio in and we'll have someone take out a handful of gels and Jaffa cakes and a bottle of water for them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones like Dave, as you met Dave, obviously, he's amazing at motivating people.
He makes it so effortless. It's so natural to him.
Yeah, He lives for it. I mean, he absolutely lives for it. Dave is we call him Shouty Dave because he's the loudest person in the world. He's a scaffolder by trade.
I'm not surprised.
And he is unbelievably noisy. But he shouts till he's got no voice left at the end of the day, and he claps his hands so much his hands bleed. And it's brilliant for me on the Monday, Tuesday, because I work with him on Monday, Tuesday, tearing down or taking it, restack it, count it, clean everything, put it back in storage. And it's brilliant for me because he's lost his voice. He's got like a little squeaky voice, and I don't get a headache because he talks, whether he's shouting at you from 20 foot away or he's talking 6 inches from your left ear, he's the same volume.
Yeah.
So by race weekend, I've got earache from dealing with him. But he's a great guy, and he lives for seeing people complete that race. And he helps out a lot of other races like I do as well. So he goes and volunteers at a lot of other races in the area. So he's not just 113 113 only. He'll be at
Yeah.
the duathlons, which are at Castle Combe,
Mm.
or at the Westbury 10K or something like that. So a lot of other races in our area. He just goes along, and him and his wife, now deceased, but
Mm.
they lived for races. They
Yeah.
lived for helping people out. And him and Louise, when we first started doing triathlons in Highwood back in 2005, then
Mm.
they were always the first ones there to help and the last ones to leave. So when we started 113, Dave was like naturally straight away part of our events.
Yeah. And I don't think everybody realizes just how much of a lifeblood of the sport the marshals are.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you have some athletes out there who are going to come in around that 4 hour mark, and a marshal goes to hand them a drink, and the marshal fumbles it, and they drop the water, and the athlete turns around and shouts at them in
Uh,
that moment of like frustration and adrenaline. If you have enough athletes do that to enough marshals during a race, people are going to stop marshalling for events.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, athletes generally, like I say, we don't get a huge amount of the head down, win at all costs
Mm.
competitors. We get a
Yeah.
few, and that's cool. That's fine. They come
Yeah. Yeah.
along. Our course is really fast.
Yep.
Despite being very forgiving for the newcomer athlete, it's also
Yeah.
exceptionally fast for people looking for a PB, and that's fine. That's kind of how we designed it.
Yeah.
But we don't get a huge amount of the win at all costs types,
Yeah.
But the marshals, they're properly briefed. They have information pack. The team managers for each section take them through. So they're never getting to a junction and the marshal go, don't know which way I'm going. They
Yeah.
go left or right, and they go, I don't know, because we got 5 signs and the marshal knows which way it goes anyway. So we never
Yep.
get that. We never get that issue. And
Good.
it still surprises me that some organisers don't get that if you don't look after marshals or treat them properly, like we
Yeah.
welcome them in the morning to the briefing. The
Yeah.
first thing we do is you've got half an hour before you start, there's a cafe there, go and get yourself some lunch and breakfast.
Yep.
Go and fill your flask up with coffee, go and get a couple of cakes, take it with you. So instantly we try and make it so they feel that they're appreciated.
Hmm.
And then because of that, they feedback. They're happier to work. They're happier with what they're doing. Their interaction with competitors is way better than someone who's just turned up and gone, well, I didn't even tell me where to blimmin' go, and you've given me is a high vis. It's like 18 sizes too big and stinks because it's never been washed. And the course
Yeah.
manager shouted at me because I was 2 minutes late. So they're then going
Yeah.
to sit there and they're not going to be they're not their level of interaction with the competitors isn't going to be good because they're already on a back
Yep.
foot. Got up at
Yep.
blimmin' 4 o'clock in the morning to drive there, get parked up. They've
Yep.
had to walk about 20 miles. We do free camping about 100 meters from the race start for all our
Yeah.
marshals. And they get free parking on site. We really look after them as much as possible because they're as important to me as the competitors. Because
Yeah.
without them, we don't have competitors. Yeah.
No, definitely. And the other person that athletes might interact with, apart from the event staff themselves and the marshals, are the technical officials.
Yeah.
So you just give an insight into sort of to who they are, what their role is on race day.
So we've used although it's changing actually for this year, we've had for the last 27 races a guy, BTF referee called Mike Newman, who's a good friend of ours, become a great friend of ours over the
Mm.
years. But he's stepping away from it, but he's been shadowed by a couple of other people for the last 2 or 3 years, and then they're taking away, they're sort of stepping in the official role from next year. But they're we don't make our own rules up because that would be wrong to say that. We do follow the BTF rules. So any rules which relate to safety, we don't even get close to touching. We wouldn't
No,
bend in any shape or format.
no.
However, we do have flexibility in other rules, So for example, in order to someone getting around safely and happily and in comfort is more important than some of the rules. So for example, the rules say if you start on the bike course with a jersey on, you have to finish with the jersey, whether it's in your pocket or whether you keep wearing it. You're not allowed to drop it off with a marshal
Yes.
or you're not
Yep.
allowed to drop it off with a member of your family. Whereas we'd much rather have people go out on the bike course over prepared and lose clothing rather than if we have a cooler day racing and the
Mm.
lake is because by virtue of how shallow the water is at our lake, it changes temperature quite quickly. So you might
Mm.
have a 22-degree water temperature in June, but the air temperature at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning is only about 8 degrees. So
Yep.
they'll be swimming on the course and they'll see blue skies. They'll feel warm because the water's nice and warm.
Yep.
And they think, I'm going to be fine. And then 2, 3 miles into the course, when they've gone out and just a tri suit on, they're shivering and they can't get any heat in. So if we're extracting people from the bike course, the lion's share of them within the first 3 or 4 miles have just got too cold. So we
Yeah.
say to people in the briefings, put a set of arm warmers in, put an extra
Yeah.
jersey on, put a gilet in. If you haven't got anywhere to carry it, just leave it with a marshal and we'll collect it up and you can collect it after the race. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing. The BTF, we've got a good relationship with them in that they allow us to not bend the rules, but they tweak the rules to accommodate for us.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
same as some people, we get people, it's very common for people to have Raynaud's, so their hands get very cold. So
Yep.
they can't swim even in 20, 22-degree water without gloves. So we'll nominate them early, or we'll take a note of their number early, and they're not eligible for a BTF qualification place, but they can still do the race. They still get an official finish time,
Yep.
and they still get their medal and their t-shirt and a goodie bag and a finish line experience. But for
Yep.
them, they don't care. All they want to do is just complete the race. So that's little things like that where with the BTF, with Mike and with Becky and the people we've got now later, then we've got that relationship and understanding with them, and they kind of got a feel for how we do things, rather than
Mm.
if we were just purely an ETU qualifier, then we'd have to follow the rules exactly to the line.
Yes. I think that when you haven't got a big qualification race that everybody really wants to be there for, whether it's Europeans, the Worlds, whether it's the Ironman World Championships, where you haven't got the cream of the crop turning up and you don't need to have that completely level playing field,
Yeah,
it does change the vibe at the event. It would,
yeah,
I think the race would feel very different if you had sort of 100 sort of wannabe elite athletes turning up to
yeah,
try and punch their ticket to a bigger event. I'm not saying that's necessarily sort of a bad thing, because there's obviously a place for that. But the vibe that the events have at the moment is of, like you say, I think you get quite a lot of repeat athletes come
yeah,
back, and it does feel like, a bit of a community event. And people travel a really long way.
yeah,
I've been chatting to people who come from sort of near the Scottish borders,
yeah,
not because it's a really flat course and they really want to go fast, but they've heard great things.
yeah, yeah, and just enjoy it. Yeah, and we get about 40% of our competitors come from Wales. I
Mm,
think simply because I think they like the atmosphere there, and topographically where we are is very flat. Where they train all day, every day is really hilly. So they
yeah.
come here and they go, I can't believe I've not even been out the big chain ring once for the whole course. I've
Yeah.
done our transition. But then we get if I did a heat map for where our entries come from, it would be South Wales, London area, London, Kent, down towards
Yep.
the south coast,
Yep.
Scotland, Newcastle, Manchester, some of the northern centre areas. But then
Mm,
we've got a group of 4 or 5 people who come over from Canada every year to one of our races. They come to the Cotswolds and they meet
wow.
up and have a week in the Cotswolds. We've got
Brilliant.
competitors, fairly semi-regular competitors that come from Germany and come and race
Yeah.
for us. And they have family over here. They're Brit expats, and they come
Yeah.
back up here, do our race, and they make a bit of a holiday and go and see their family. And but yeah, people come from all over the place, and we got 2 of the guys that race with us all the time live on the run course. So they're sort of 400 meters, 500 meters away from where the finish line is.
Excellent.
But yeah, people do come from all over. As you've seen, very much the emphasis for our races is just we welcome in everybody, and it makes it achievable for everybody. We don't have
Yeah.
cut-offs specifically, and that's a big thing for us, is that people they might go to another race and go, well, I can't swim 1900 meters in an hour and 20. I just
Yeah.
physically can't do it. Whereas
Yep.
we say, as long as you're making forward motion and the water safety crew don't think you're a danger to yourself or other people around you,
Yeah.
then fill your boots, take as long as you want. We get people who come, we got a couple of regulars who come along and do the swim course. They wear a bobble hat over the
Yep.
same color as their race cap, and they breaststroke the whole thing. It takes them an hour and a half. They strike up a conversation with half the water safety crew on the way round.
Yep. Yep.
It takes them an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and they go off and leisurely take a cycle and a run, and they've
Mm,
been doing it for years and they love it. And I've got no issue with that at all. We haven't got strict cut-offs. If our slowest ever time, I think, was 10 hours and 12 minutes. So the
wow.
BTF, the rules actually say we have to publish a cut-off. So we set it to the maximum of 8.5 hours. But
Okay.
in reality, we just don't stick to it.
Yeah.
Unless it's dangerous, or unless we get wind that someone stopped for 2 hours for a roast dinner at a pub on the bike course. And as long as they're making reasonable forward motion, they're not a danger
Yeah.
to themselves, then they will take as long as they like. And if me and only 5 people of the team have to stay there till 8 o'clock at night for them to finish, and we walk around the run course with them, then brilliant,
Yeah.
no problem at all. That's why we do it. That's kind of we try and be as welcoming to everyone. And I understand entirely why these big corporate events have to have cut-offs.
Yeah.
But it's I'm really happy and I'm proud of the fact that we can kind of avoid having to do that.
Yeah, with the run course being on private property, that makes
Yeah,
it, a lot
yeah,
easier
yeah,
for that.
yeah. It's no problem at all. So we're not fighting road closure permission times.
Mm,
We're not fighting times where that road's going to be really, really busy at 4 o'clock. It's
yep.
just like if it's going to take you longer, it takes you longer, and we'll manage it
Mm.
around us. We
So
don't
if
really
we
want to be there till midnight if possible. Just if he starts getting him, you go, Graham, why do you let these people carry on? It's like, because that is why we do it, and that is always why we do it, and we're never going to change.
Yeah, I have been on site when I did transition last year. I think about four, so,
Yeah,
or not long after I was there. And I don't think we were in the pub until about 6. So, it
yeah,
is it is a long day. But again, like it doesn't really bother people.
no,
People aren't there sort of the other marshals, the technical officials, people aren't sort of frustrated. It's a good vibe. It's a long day, but there's so much positive energy as you
yeah,
get to sort of any triathlon really, that sort of the time flies in its own way. You don't really realize how knackered you are until you are sat down with a drink in your hand and you think, oh,
yeah.
it's a proper
Yeah, I mean,
day
I
out
don't
that was.
relax all day. I'm like a nervous wreck all day. And it's when that last
Sure.
person crosses the finish line, whether
Yeah.
that's 3 o'clock or five
Yeah.
o'clock, that my brain just goes, oh, relax. And
I mean,
then, part there down, we tear everything down in an hour or two.
yeah.
And then we go to the pub, we have a beer and a pizza. And then I get home and I work till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, picking through everyone's emails. And then 18 hours the next day. And then by about Wednesday, and Monday, Tuesday, I'm down at the
Yeah.
lake with Dave and Kevin and Claire and a couple of the other guys, and we just sort
Yeah.
of go through everything and pick it out. Then by
Yeah.
about Wednesday, I'm back to human again.
Yeah. Something I saw which I think showed how much you guys sort of really care and I wish more race organisers had, is that somebody commented on a Facebook post saying that there are like a couple of years ago, saying that there are a bunch of gel wrappers that were left on this particular course. And about 4 hours later, you posted a picture of you with like a bin bag full, and
Yeah,
I've just been round to pick them up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we always try the Cotswolds, like all areas that attract a lot of tourism and cyclists, have a real issue with litter.
Yeah,
They have
I
a real
agree.
problem. And like we leave our bike course and our run course way cleaner now we find it. It's
Yeah,
not filthy. It's not filthy by any stretch of the
yeah,
imagination. There's bits on the bike course where the hedges are full of, not full of, but you'll find McDonald's wrappers, beer cans,
yeah, yeah,
stuff like that. And then we used to always make a point. We had a cyclists do tend to throw bottles around, and I'm not talking at our event, just general.
yeah,
So people find cycle bottles they'll find 50 pieces of litter, but if one of them is a cycling bottle, they identify all the litter as a cycling problem.
yeah, yeah,
But so we got called to one of the parish council meetings out in one of the little villages, which isn't even on our course, about 6 or 7 years ago, and they had like a bag of litter,
yeah.
and one of them was a bike bottle, but they'd found it was a bike, one of our bike stickers, which has 113 events
Yeah, yeah,
on it. So they were like, all of this rubbish is yours, but actually it was like McDonald's wrappers, beer cans, just normal general
yeah,
rubbish.
yeah,
So we make a point now, if we go around after the race, and our team on the bike course and the run course the same, go
yeah,
around and they pick up all the litter, and then we pick up way more litter than is created by our event. And we have a very strict, if any of the competitors get caught littering, it's just an instant disqualification. There's
yeah,
no,
as it should be.
we can't have Joe Public walking his dog in the morning and see a cyclist go along and rip a gel wrapper and throw it in a bush,
Yeah,
because it just tarnishes the event for everybody. So we put of all the marshals, of 80 or 90 marshals on the bike course, we've all got bin bags. We've got bins all around the course. You can throw your wrapper to a marshal, at a marshal, near a marshal will pick it up. There's no excuse for people dropping it. But I know, like from doing the half marathon, for example, people runners, I think, are used to just throwing their gel wrappers and their cups on the floor, because that's what all the other races do. But it just
yeah,
creates so much waste. Whereas
yeah,
we're strict on it. We recycle everything,
yeah.
where possible.
Like when I've done the London Marathon a couple of times, and just the
It's
amount of
unreal, isn't it?
plastic that ends up, you just end
Piles
up
of bottles.
trampling over it.
Yeah,
I'm not right at the front of the race. So by the time I get, there's already been sort of tens of thousands of runners well, not maybe tens of thousands of runners who've been through, and it's just obscene the amount of waste. I know they recycle it all, but it's still
yeah.
it's crazy. Anyway,
Oh, it's huge.
moving on to sort of I want you to help athletes to understand how they can have the best race day experience possible, how
Yeah.
they can avoid sort of some of the common pitfalls that, generally speaking, people who are new to triathlon might make.
Yeah.
So to start with, one of the biggest first decisions that people need to make is what time do people need to get to the course? If say they are starting at 6:30, what kind of time do most people start turning up? What do you think is a comfortable amount of time that somebody
There's
needs to
no
take?
there's no exact time for this because everybody faffs at different level. So
Yeah,
some people, even inexperienced triathletes who've not done it many times before, they'll know my transition spot is number 384. It's in rack number 3, and my bike's going to be the eighth one along. They'll walk in with their stuff, they'll wrap their bike, they'll put the shoes down, they'll pull their wetsuit up because they've walked over with around their waist,
yeah,
take the hoodie down and walk to the start line, and it'll take them 5 minutes. Other people, even very experienced athletes, will take an hour. But I mean,
yeah,
realistically, average, the mean time probably you'd want to give yourself if you're inexperienced to AR races or B triathlon generally, is you want to give yourself a good 45 minutes in transition to arrive in transition to your race time. That will give you time to get into transition, work out where your racking slot is, familiarize yourself with which row it's in when you come in from the
yeah,
swim, because it all looks very different. And we recommend to people, when you come into transition, put your bike down, get your stuff, walk to where swim in is, and then
yeah.
walk to where your bike is, and then walk
Yes.
through to where the bike out is. And the
Yeah.
same bike out to run out there, diagonally opposed in our transition. So in
Hmm.
opposite corners. So there's no one slot that has an advantage over any other slot.
Yeah.
And we do that intentionally for that very reason. But one of the biggest mistakes we see in transition is people just rushing it. So what I always recommend to people, and this is what I always used to do when I was racing,
Mm.
is the last 10 minutes of the swim when you can see the finish chute and the lake exit, is
Yeah.
use those 5 or 10 minutes to just think through what you've got to do.
Hmm.
So you come into transition, the first thing you're going to do is when you get out of the water is you can start pulling your wetsuit down. You take the goggles off so you can see where you're running for a start, and your hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but then take time in transition. I mean, in reality, a very fast transition time for us from getting out the water to getting on the bike is probably about a minute and a bit.
Yeah.
A very slow time is probably 8 or 10 minutes. But in reality,
Hmm.
if you take 20 seconds or 30 seconds to just go in transition, go, I've got my cycling shoes on, I've got my bike, I've put my helmet on, I've got
Mm.
the gels, I've put them in my pocket, I've put my socks on the right way around. I've not
Yep.
done some of the mistakes. It's 30 seconds or a minute it takes you to do that. And in what's going to be a 6 or 9 hour day, 30 seconds really is academic. So
Yeah.
you're not going to win the race by rushing transition generally, but you can
No.
ruin it for yourself. We probably we have just over 1,000 people at all our races
Mm.
historically as an average. So we've had 27,000, 28,000 people come through our triathlons.
Yeah.
I reckon a good 200 or 300 have got to Marshall Point 2 or Marshall Point 3 on the bike course and gone, "Oh, my head's getting really hot. Why is that?" And they've still got the swim hat on underneath their helmet. The amount of people, we had a guy, and I used this example in one of the briefings, is that we had a guy come to us and said, "Graham, I'm going to do your race. I need to get back in transition because I've got a pace swim exit to run up to bike out." And I'm like, "The transition's shut," but I took him in myself and I walked through, and he
Yeah.
was flapping a bit, like he was really nervous. And
Yeah.
we tried to calm him down, and he was fine. He got out in the swim. He actually swam really quickly,
Yeah.
and then he got into transition. He went to his bike, and he ended up running to the bike mount point, which is about 100 meters from transition, without his bike, still in his wetsuit. And he just got himself so confused. He
Oh,
was so
bless.
convinced I've got to rush this. I've got to do that. This is the
Yeah.
way to get my
Yeah.
wetsuit on. I've not got socks. I'm just going to pull my cycling shoes on. And
Yeah.
actually, it cost himself probably 5 minutes and a load of embarrassment.
Yeah.
Another good transition one is most people will just step over their bike, put their feet in their pedals, and push themselves away. Many
Yeah.
people do, as I used to do when I was racing, is you'll put a little elastic band on the back of your
Yeah.
cycle shoe hoop against your chainstay or your seat stay,
Yeah.
and then you'll run and you'll jump on your bike. And I used to do that, and I practiced it on the field. A lot of people don't practice that; they just think that's what they're going to do, and they make a mess of doing that. They miss their
Yeah.
pedals and end up either on their shins or knees on the tarmac, or
Yeah.
in men's case, they smash their balls into the top shoe of their
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah.
And the other one is people who put their feet into their shoes and then put their feet in their pedals. still have the same gear that they've ridden from the campsite into transition in,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
physically can't pull away because they're doing a cadence of about 10 and they're trying
Yeah.
to pull away, and they're a bit wobbly because they've just got out of the water. They're a bit
Yeah.
disorientated because they're in the rush of racing, and they tend to end up in one of the ditches, or they don't make it and they stop dead and they have to unclip and start again anyway. So
Yeah.
it's just little things like think through what you're going to do, get your bike ready, lay your stuff out in a logical order so that when you put your bike
Yes.
down,
Yeah.
but you're I'd have my cycle stuff to the left and have my run stuff to the right. So I come out and go, the first thing you have to do is you have to put your helmet on. You can't touch your bike until you put your helmet
Yep.
on. I'd put my helmet on, I'd put my cycle shoes on, I'd have the gel was already, and my gel and my glasses were already in my helmet. So as I'm putting my helmet on, I put my glasses on, I've tucked a couple of gels in my back pocket if I've not
Yep.
got my top tube bag on my bike. And I'd have the whole process and I'd practice it over and over again. And for
Mm.
the last 500 meters, 200 meters of the swim, I'd think through, right, this is what I've got to do. I'm going to ignore the fact that my mum or my auntie or someone might be at the swim exit and they want
Yep.
to give me a high five, which is fine because I'll do that, but I won't get excited about it until I'm there because all my mind is thinking, right, I've got T1. I'm
Yep.
going to go for the cycle. I need this. Does it look like it's going to rain? Do I need arm warmers? That type of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody gave me a great piece of advice at an event a few years ago because I said that because the run course was a little bit dicey.
Yeah.
It was off road around a lake, and I was unsure whether I was going to have off road shoes or road shoes. And I
Yeah.
thought I'd make a decision. I have both pairs of shoes in transition. I thought I'd have both, and I'll make a decision when we get off the bike. And this guy's going, "What are you doing? Like in transition is the time in your life when you're least capable of making good
Yeah.
decisions. Like
Exactly.
make
Yeah.
a decision ahead of the race and
Yeah.
stick with it." And
Yeah.
that is going back to what you said about the arm warmers and also about the hypothermia. I encourage people to make a decision before they get into transition over whether they're going to put a gilet or a jersey or arm warmers
Yeah.
on, so you
Exactly.
don't get caught up in that moment and think, "Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine." And then 20 minutes into the bike, they start shivering
Freezing.
uncontrollably,
Yeah. And
and they think,
it
"Hang,
happens so often as well.
yeah, I tried
Our
to
bike
save
course
20 seconds in transition." And now I'm riding at 18 kilometers an hour because I can barely control my body,
yeah.
shivering.
You can't steer straight. You can't hang on to the handlebars because your arms are
Yeah,
shaking.
yeah,
Yeah. And it happens so often. I mean, the biggest piece of advice I give to people, and it's always the first piece of advice I give to people, and it sounds obvious, but it's not, is just enjoy it.
yeah,
You paid money to do this. You're doing this because it's fun. You're not doing this because it's going to be a career for
yeah,
99.99%
yeah,
of people. You're doing it either raising a bit of money for charity, but you've done that because it's fun, or you're
yeah,
doing it because it's a day out and you want to beat your mates. And don't forget to enjoy it. And whether that enjoyment is high-fiving everybody on the course, whether that enjoyment is crossing the finish line with your 2-year-old son, whether
yeah,
that enjoyment is smoking all your mates in the club and beating them all,
yeah,
but don't forget to enjoy it because people do, they get a race face on, and the reason we do a familiarization day about 5 to 6 weeks before the race,
mm,
where we invite normally a couple hundred people to come down and they can swim in the lake. We take them for a guided lap of the bike course really slow. We take them for a guided lap of the run course again really slow, so everybody's involved.
mm,
And the reason we do that is I like to identify people, so I get to meet people and hear them, because on race
mm,
weekend you don't really get to meet anybody because everyone's they're either nervous or they're grunting, or it's like, how are you? Yeah, fine. Yeah, I just want to race. Yeah, what time start? Where's the swim
yeah,
start? That type of stuff. Whereas you don't, it's people forget to enjoy it. They forget that it's there, it's fun.
mm,
We'll try and make it fun and we'll try and remind them of that. But some people are just so they're head down focused. Oh, they're
yeah.
nervous,
Some
nerve.
people they get so caught up in the whole process of the training. If they spent 6 to 9 months preparing for this event,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
they just like
Day
it
out.
means so much to them that, like you say, they forget to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And when they reflect back, okay, they get the medal and they tell their mates they did it. But when they reflect back on that day, are they going to remember all of the sort of the great points, the scenery, everything like that? Or are they going to remember just like staring at their Garmin and trying to make sure that their watts in their heart rate were on target? You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, people
again,
don't even see the bike course is beautiful, and the run
oh
course is
yeah,
stunning. The free lakes
yeah,
around the run course are beautiful, especially Neighbridge Lake, and the bike course is beautiful, and people don't see it. We could
yeah,
literally, I could send them 28 miles up a dual carriageway and 28 miles back because they don't look at what's around. And I always remind people, go, just look around. You know, these little Cotswold
Yeah,
villages are, they're picturesque, they're beautiful.
yeah,
You know, enjoy the scenery, take it in. You know, it's not going to cost you, it's going to cost you 5 watts if you turn your head 90 degrees right for a couple of minutes to enjoy the view of a
yeah,
church and a brook and like a Cotswold sandstone estate of houses, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, they do. People do forget to enjoy it, and we enjoy it, so we take the enjoyment for them.
I quite enjoy wildlife spotting when I'm racing, actually. You know,
Yeah,
keep an eye
yeah,
on the birds that are
yeah.
around. Anything to take my mind off how much my legs hurt on the bike, you know.
I used to do it when I was training. When I was training properly, I was riding, I don't know, 250, 300 miles a week, some weeks 400 miles. And
Yeah,
I'd find myself talking to cows and sheep and horses in fields.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think it drove me insane after a while because my training partner moved away. So I did most of my cycling on my own
yeah.
for about 1 year. And yeah, I think I ended up talking to various, I'd stop for a wee in a bush and I ended up talking to a cow. I have to remind myself that I didn't, but talking to an animal, right, get back on your bike and carry on.
You probably probably need more gels if you're talking to animals.
But
So,
yeah, I mean, people forget to enjoy it, and there's so many sort of the main mistake. If I take away the humour side of it and like
yeah.
the touchy feely side of it, the main mistake I see, and you'll see this as a coach as well,
Mm.
is people don't nail their nutrition. So you
Oh,
see them and they're physically
huge.
super fit guys or females, and you see them on the second lap of the run course and they look battered. You know, they're running
Yeah,
in a really laboured fashion and they just
yeah.
look uncomfortable. And I'll go, how are you getting on? Oh, I think I went too hard on the bike, or I've maybe not done enough run training,
Mm.
even though you've done loads. And I go, what have you had to eat? And they've been out there 4 hours and they've had two gels and banana. And it's like
Yeah,
they've run their fuel tank completely out.
yeah.
You know, and it's
The,
like you can never overemphasize the importance. If you're racing somewhere between 4 and 9 hours, you're not doing that on two bananas and a gel. You know, you need to
no.
practice. And people go, well, I go out on a Sunday morning and I ride 50 miles and I have
Yeah,
3 gels and I'm fine. And I go, yeah, but you haven't swum for 45 minutes beforehand and you've then not got to run a half marathon.
yeah. So bit of story time. Cotswold Classic 2014, first middle distance. Came out the swim, and it was the first I started racing 2013. That swim around Lake 32 was the first time I'd ever actually enjoyed open water swimming. The
Okay.
mistake I made was that I only ever really did open water swimming in races. Don't make that mistake if you're listening. If you
Yeah.
are approaching your first
Practice.
triathlon or you're early in your season, get loads of time in the open water in training. But yeah, I came out 40 minutes, way better than I expected, absolutely buzzing. Got on the bike, went out towards Down Ampney and sort of through that way. And towards the end of the bike, I really started to to feel myself slowing a little bit. But I thought, oh, that's all right. I'm nearly finished the bike. Get onto the run, and I'm really good on the run. Because at sprints and Olympics, run is when I went past everyone. But I came off the bike. I remember looking, and I drank half a bottle. I'd had an energy bar and
Yeah.
like half a gel, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh
That's not
dear.
enough.
That's not
Yeah.
good. But I thought I can probably do this half marathon in about like 1:40. Took me 2 hours and 58 minutes. I was one of
Yeah.
the poor sods that
Painful.
you had to sit there and wait for, well, not poor sods, but one of the
The
people
lucky
who
end of the field.
yes, um, because I just had an absolute implosion. I
Yeah.
just like my legs just would not let me run.
Yeah, yeah,
I
and
didn't
it
get
happens.
that.
You don't realize it. You don't realize
Yeah,
it.
I didn't get that classic like shaking motion that you can get when you're bonking sometimes. But I made the mistake of running past the aid station because I didn't feel hungry.
Yeah,
And I then had like a 6 kilometer walk to get to the aid
painful.
station again.
I mean, our aid stations are a feast. We've got
Yeah,
everything. And I always
yeah,
say to people, if you're really struggling on the run course, go for the flat Coke because the flat Coke is brilliant. It's got caffeine to wake you up a little bit, or pick your
yeah,
brain, or motivate your brain a little bit, but it's also got glucose and fructose and
yeah,
the other sugar, whichever one it is, and it's brilliant. It's easy to digest.
yeah,
We buy proper Coca-Cola, red Coca-Cola. We
yeah,
have several hundred liters of it fizzing away in our conservatory in the week running up to the race because we undo it. The noise of it drives the dog mad, but it's a
yeah,
very sugary, high caffeine drink
yeah,
that will pick you up from even the lowest point, and it's easier to digest than a gel half a
Yes. Oh,
banana,
yeah.
a Jaffa cake, a salt and vinegar crisp, a Jamaican ginger cake.
The salt and vinegar
We have to
discos
help
really
about the
got
aid
me out of a hole
station.
last year.
Oh, discos are good. Yeah, I go and buy all the cash and carry. I go to cash and carry, buy all the aid station stuff in the week before the
Yeah.
race, and I just look for the saltiest crisps I could ever find. So
Yeah.
it's normally Discos or Pringles, and normally they're the
Yeah.
ones. If you pick one up when you're if you have a packet of them where you're sat on the sofa at home, it makes your lips sting. So
Yeah.
if it doesn't make your lips sting, it's not salty enough for when you're racing. We do pretzel. We have pretzels on there as well, but they're never that salty. We used to do salted peanuts, but then
Yeah.
with people who have peanut allergy, we can't do that now. So we just
No,
don't
that's
put them on the
I
aid
think that's
station anymore.
probably for the best.
Yeah.
Um, so talking of people getting themselves into trouble, what are the sort of the most common reasons that you see athletes failing to finish races? You know, when you're picking people up in the car, what are the main stories that you hear?
I'd say so. Nutrition, definitely, as we touched on a second
Yeah.
ago. I'd say poorly maintained bikes is quite a high one as well.
Oh, really?
So people, they've their derailleur's coming half off the hanger and they don't realize till suddenly it's trapped into the rear mat, it's
Oh,
trapped into the rear cassette.
yeah.
We see that fairly often. People who their spokes are so loose that you can undo the nipples by fingers. And they'll go around a corner, they'll hit the throttle as they come out of a corner and they'll snap six
Yeah.
of spokes out, which stops the wheel from turning in the frame. That
Nasty.
sort of stuff. People who've got cracks in handlebars and haven't
Yeah.
realized until it physically goes. That sort
Okay.
of stuff I think is probably it's one of the, in terms of like easily rectifiable. People get injured when they're going around, they
Oh, yeah.
might pull a hamstring or something.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff happens fairly often, but you can't account for that other than having getting people being in sort of peak physical fitness, which we don't care about anyway. It's up to them to do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
bike maintenance, kit choices, people who have a lot of chafing because they've just put a brand new pair of run shorts on or tri suit and they haven't
Oh,
tried to.
wow. Yeah.
That sort of stuff happens fairly often. But normally,
Death by chafing.
if someone comes in and goes, "Well, I can't carry on because I got chafing all around my nether
Yeah.
regions," we have the Health Heroes, the Team True Spirit guys, and I go, "Look,
Yeah.
that guy over there has got one leg and he's not complaining. So just get on with it." There's a good balance. Like he's not moaning at all. He's got one leg and half an eye, and he's still
Yeah.
racing. And that guy with one
Yeah.
arm swam the whole course and didn't moan the whole time. So they're a good leveler for us to
Bit
use.
of perspective does help sometimes.
It does, yeah. But I mean, it's really just it's the seven P's or whichever analogy you care to use. But it's just
Yeah.
preparation. Get your bike right. We use different ones every year, but we normally have a local bike shop who'll come down with a mechanic, and you can book in to get your bike checked over and serviced on the Saturday. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're doing it on the Saturday, probably you're doing it a little bit too late. But you get your bike to a shop a couple of weeks before the race and go,
Yeah.
can
I
you
agree.
just give it not a gold platinum level service, but can you just check it over, make sure I've got some meat left in the brake blocks, the bottom bracket actually turns, all the gears are indexed, the
Yeah.
chain's not stretched to the point where it's about to snap or jump out of the gear at any
Mm.
moment. My Di2's charged up, which is sort of a modern problem, or that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just get it checked over, and
Yeah.
that would save a lot of problems. And we have bike mechanics on the course. We have
Yeah.
four moto marshals, so we have 4 or 5 moto referees. But on top of that, we have 4 motorbike marshals who
Yeah.
are guys from my team, people I know. They carry a tube or like the basic spares. They're
Mm.
there to help you. Ultimately, the cyclist should be able to fix their own punches. But if you get stuck or you're shivering and you don't fit a tube properly and you pinch it and you break it and you need one of ours with there. But
Mm.
most of the stuff they see is people where they just haven't, they've dug a bike out and the tire's got 8 psi in it. And they're riding along and it's like the tire's squidging and they're riding along on the rim and subsequently it tears the inner tube into pieces or tears the tire into pieces.
Yeah.
Just get your bike checked over.
I think that is one of the big differences between sort of the middle and the full distance is that the middle distance is still relatively accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like there aren't many people who can ride a bike who
yeah,
couldn't ride 90 kilometers if they really sort of wanted to, if they wanted sort of to put the effort in. Whereas the full distance, another sort of that's another
yeah,
sort of level entirely. The upside to that is it's very inclusive in that lots of people who don't identify as cyclists can still come along and still race and still have a lot of fun. But sort of the downside is that there isn't always that same level of understanding of sort of how the bike works, how to fix it,
Yeah. And I
if
was anal
things
when
do
I
go
was
wrong.
racing, I was anal with stuff like that. My bike was always immaculate,
Yeah,
and it was properly prepped. And especially when I did Ironman racing and middle distance races,
yeah,
I'd checked the bike over 19 times. I'd almost polished the paint off it. I'd cleaned it so much and oiled the chain and just
yeah,
checked everything over 20 times.
yeah,
Yeah, some people don't. And we have all sorts of bikes at our races. People come and do it on hybrids. We had a guy do it on a mountain bike a few
yeah.
years ago. Said he was, in fairness, he was really strong cyclist. But he said, "Can I do? Is it okay to do it on a mountain bike?" Just because he was training for this marathon mountain bike ride, and he did it as a relay. And he did it on
Fair.
a full suspension cross country bike,
Wow.
and he just pumped his tires up to about 80 psi. Used like a semi cut tire, so it was still a 26-inch
Okay.
wheel with
Yeah,
2 point something inch wide tire. But he
yeah.
just pumped it up as hard as it would go. He used like a semi-cut tire, so it had a little bit less rolling resistance.
Mm,
I
yeah.
can't remember his speed, but I remember looking at his Strava data, and I think he'd averaged over 56 mile. I think he'd averaged like 340 watts, 350 watts. So, I mean, he was fast. He was faster than a lot of people you look at and go, he looks like a good cyclist.
Yeah.
But yeah, did it a full width, flat handlebar mountain bike, cross country bike. But yeah, we get people on hybrids come and do it. We've got this check now where we have to, the BTF guys and our transition guys have a check sheet so they know what to look out for e-bikes now as well. So
Oh,
obviously
really?
they're sneaking their way into triathlon, I think, like they have done for many other
Yeah.
sports and stuff over the years. And also technology's changed, they're becoming harder to identify.
Mm, I'm sure. Yeah. When I was on sort of the transition team last year, we had, sort of check the bikes as they come in. And the main bits that we were looking for is somebody's helmet
Yeah,
and somebody's sort of checking for the bar ends in the bike and that the
yeah,
brakes worked. Those are the real absolute basics.
yeah,
But yeah, just if somebody can just sort of even just watch a YouTube video, just spend an hour looking over their bike
yeah.
and going, is there anything that is really visibly loose?
Does it go for all
You
the
know,
gears? Are the tires
yes, does it
pumped
go
up?
through all the gears? Is
Quick
there a large
release is
amount of
like,
rattling or
yeah,
squeaking? And if in doubt, get somebody to check it out because the last thing that we want is, somebody to come a cropper and really hurt themselves on
yeah.
the course.
Yeah, and you've
Um,
you've invested a lot of time and a lot of emotion into completing the race.
yeah,
You might have done, even if you've not done a huge amount of training, it's still multiple hours you've put into training to
yes,
do
yeah,
it. Why would you not spend 20 minutes, half an hour just checking your bike over? Go on YouTube and look for a rough bike check, and it will say,
yeah,
check the brakes work, check the wheels are straight, check the spokes tight, check the gears indexed correctly,
yeah,
do your quick release skewers up, make sure your seat post is done up. So when you sit on it the first time, you're not sat on the top tube,
yeah.
that sort of stuff.
On the subject of, people failing to finish, coming a cropper, all of that, if an athlete at any event is riding along, running along, and they come across another athlete who's crashed their bike, who has fallen over on the run, and they're not getting back up, what is the best thing that they, as an athlete, can do to sort of to get that athlete help as quickly as possible?
So unless they're assuming they're not medically trained and
Yeah,
it's someone who's in a bad state, then tell the next marshal. The next marshal will phone it, radio it through to us. We
yeah.
have mobile paramedic on the run course and on the bike course. They'll get to them. We had one, a guy wasn't paying any attention going through Latin a few years ago, and he was fumbling for his drinks bottle or something in his top tube bag, and he basically rode into the back of a parked car, and
Oof.
he went down pretty hard, to be fair. And
Yeah.
the marshal got to them fairly soon, but the next cyclist that came along, she was a doctor, and she
Oh,
stopped. And
wow.
in fairness, she stopped and she thought he'd broken his neck, so it was quite a serious accident. But she
Yeah.
stopped and sacrificed her race, and we gave her a free entry for life for that. But
Fantastic. Yeah.
like generally, if you come across someone who's in a bad state, check they're okay. Initially, ask them, "Are you
Yeah.
okay?" If they're
Yeah.
not responding, then normal recovery position type stuff. Hold your hand up,
Yeah.
shout to the next cyclist, get them to tell the marshal. The
Yeah.
marshal will
Yeah.
put it through. We'll have a paramedic. If it's serious, we'll call an ambulance onto the course. But yeah, I mean, everyone's human beings. I know
Yes.
about racing, but if you stop for 20 seconds to go, "Are you all right? Can you carry on? Do you want me to let the marshal know?" It's 20 seconds in a scheme of a 6 hour race. It's not going to cost you anything, but for the sake
No.
of moral standard and humanity, then it's nice to check on people. I would always check on someone else, even if I was racing and serious. If someone was down and hurt, I'd stop
Yeah.
and, are you all right? Can I help?
It's the kind of thing.
Someone's health is way more important than a race.
Absolutely. It's the kind of thing that I, as like a human being, would never be able to live, or I would keep me up at night. Remember the time that I cycled past someone who was really hurt
Yeah,
because I was
same. Yeah,
worried about my race.
yeah. We're all human beings. And our races very, even as with our races, they're very relaxed. They're not super elitist. I mean, at Olympics, you wouldn't expect Alistair Brownlee to stop and check on another competitor, because the
Yeah.
marshals do that and he's out to win and the stakes are high. Whereas our races, you just want to finish. If you
Yep.
finish 20 seconds slower than because you stopped to help someone, then yes, you've lost 20 seconds, but you've helped someone, you've made the difference in someone's day completely.
Yeah.
We're all humans, we're people.
Going back to sort of when athletes sort of arrive for races,
Hmm.
what is what are the pieces of kit? I'm sure you get every year several athletes who've forgotten something and they come to the event staff in absolute blind panic because they've forgotten something. What are the most common pieces of kit that you see athletes sort of forgetting to bring that it's worth people just ensuring, triple checking they have before they leave instead of assuming?
Yeah, people forget goggles. That happens all the time. People forget their run shoes. There's not really much we can do with that. Goggles we can help with
Mm,
because we get loads of goggles left in transition. So we have a pile of goggles in lost property. We bring
nice.
them from the previous race to the next race. So when
Yeah,
someone comes along and goes, Graham Alp, I forgot my goggles, or I put them on and the band snapped, we've got a set of goggles for them.
yeah.
People forget, very common, sounds obvious, is people forget front wheels. So a lot of the bike
Really?
racks do up on the front axle and they
Yeah.
strap the bike to it in the front axle. They get there, realize you've not put a front wheel in. That happens a lot. I'd say that
Oh,
happens every other race or so. And we get someone in a blind panic on Sunday morning going, is there anyone's got a spare front wheel? And I bring my road bike down to the lake for the race weekend, and my
yeah,
road bike's done the course with other people
yeah,
half a dozen times now where people have had to borrow my bike to use the race. And Mark and Claire, who work for us in race control, they both got race bikes. So they bring them
yeah,
down. And the amount of people that borrow wheels or bottle cages or stuff off our bikes because they
yeah,
can find them. So that happens fairly often. But yeah, goggles is the main one.
yeah.
I always tell people that I used to take 2 pairs of goggles with me, you know,
Yes, yeah,
just in
same.
case you do snap one set, your day is almost over. So I always used to bring 2 sets with me. Socks, bring your socks. So they wear that in the morning, but generally it's normal stuff. Have a bike bottle filled up on your bike, ready to go. Yeah, that's another one. Our aid station is 21 miles into the course.
Yeah.
So for even the faster guys, you've got an hour. When you get out
Mm,
of the water, if the water's hot, you're going to be quite dehydrated. So we sort of tell people, and we do this in the briefing on Saturday. So just load a bottle up onto your bike before you start, put enough fluids into it, enough gels to get you to the aid station. And then our aid station is every lap. So you get it twice, but you won't get it for the first time till 21 miles. And then you won't get it for the second time until maybe 49 or 50.
yeah, yeah. Another something that I think you do well at 113 is the number of toilets you have available
Yeah.
in
We
in
got
the
a couple
transition
extra.
area. Now it's always, everybody who turns up on race morning should be taking any opportunity they have to empty whatever's in their system out before they
Exactly.
start the
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
What is your like recommendations for like the best sort of like because I've been stood in queues for 15 minutes before I missed my start well, I didn't miss the race, but I lost my position at Ironman Staffordshire and had to start in
Well,
one of the
later
slower
on. Yeah.
races because I didn't anticipate just how much time it was going to take me to queue up. Is there is I know that you have rolling starts, but is there sort of a better time to get yourself in that queue? Is it something you should think about as soon as people get there?
I mean,
Any
the
kind
queue
of
for our toilets, a lot of it was always it bugged me at other races when I used to go racing, is that you'd have 1,000 competitors and 12 portaloos. So you end up having to queue for 45 minutes, whereas we have 800 to 1,000 competitors and about 60 portaloos. So the queue
yeah,
should never be more than 5 minutes or something.
no,
If that,
it's
you should
yeah.
just be able to go walk to the toilet, go, there's an empty one, get on and go. And the reason organisers do that is because toilets are expensive.
Mm,
So
mm,
they cut corners by taking toilets out, whereas we got loads. But I always say to people, realistically, your race day plan, you should eat 2 hours before your start time.
Yep.
You should get into transition 45 minutes before your start time, 1 hour, 45 minutes before your start time. Get yourself familiarized, walk to the toilet, walk around to the swim start, watch a few swim starts before your own wave goes off. So you've got an idea of where it goes, how it
Yep.
all works, and get started. But most people need, and they definitely need a number one before they start, although some people
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that in the lake, which is why the first 100 meters of the swim is always the warmest. But you definitely need a number two at some point. It's
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
to do it before the start
Yeah.
rather than trying to do it after the swim when you're putting your wetsuit down, your tri-suit soaking wet, and you're trying then to rehygiene yourself. I'm trying to be politically correct, trying to wipe you. And we put baby wipes in our toilets as well for that very
Yes.
reason.
Yeah.
Because people I know from bitter experience, if you have to go to the second function in the toilet mid-race,
Yep.
using toilet roll on a sweaty backside is not a huge amount of fun. So we feel like we put baby wipes as well as toilet roll in them. Much to the displeasure of the toilet Portaloo hire company because it doesn't go through their recycling thing. But I kind of just go, well, we just let them deal with it.
Hmm. And then sort of last thing I wanted to sort of to touch, well, penultimate thing I wanted to touch on really was the level of safety cover that you and most other organisers are required to provide by BTF or other governing bodies, because I think the swim causes an enormous amount of anxiety in a lot of athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
Um,
give you, I'll preempt that one with one part.
Go
The
on.
BTF minimum requirement is a joke. It's
Right.
not
Okay.
enough. It absolutely isn't enough. I mean, for example, our race, if we have 1,000 competitors, we've got 3,000 people on site, roughly, with spectators, average
Yeah.
numbers. Their minimum requirement, I think, is two first aiders for that. And it's like that's not even
Really?
close. So when we have 18 in the medical team, which
Yeah.
ranges from a race control guy who sits in our race control at any one time and he coordinates petitions around. We have a doctor, and then we have eight or nine, depending on what's available, paramedic level qualified first aiders, and then the rest are first aiders.
Yeah.
So they could administer a plaster or they can do resuscitation, CPR, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But for water safety, the minimum level that we go for is we have one water safety canoeist or powerboat body per 15 swimmers, which is way better than the minimum standard, which is set out by the BTF.
Hmm.
Our race, as you've seen, the lake is pretty shallow. It's
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 foot deep most of the way around. There's a couple of parts of the lake where you can stand up
Yeah.
if you need to. So when we tell people if you need to take a break and pull your wetsuit back over your shoulders, and you fill your boots, carry on, stand up and take a break. You can't, there's no floating vodka bar there, so you can't sit there for hours. But if you need to stop and take a break, then carry on and take a break. But in terms of safety, we don't cut any cords on anything. And I think that's why
No.
we've got such a good relationship with the police and the ESAG committee who approve the races, is we always go to them. We never go to them and say, what's the cheapest way we can do this? We just say, what is the safest way we can do this in
Yeah.
terms of police, traffic management, first aid, medical provision, to make this, I want to be able to go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I don't want someone, unfortunately, injuries do happen, heart attacks, accidents happen in racing. And I don't want to sit up at night going, we didn't do enough to cover. We've
No.
done the minimum and it's not enough. So I make sure we overachieve in all those areas by miles. And if the first aid team sit around twiddling their thumbs all day eating ice cream, then brilliant.
Yeah.
They're
Best
paid
case
for it.
scenario.
They carry on. Yeah.
The water safety crew also have a very good second function, which is when you've taken the left hand turn around the first buoy and you swim directly into the sunrise, they can
They can
shout at
point you in the
you.
right direction. Yeah. Yeah, it does become that's the one downside of starting so early in the morning
Yeah.
is that the sun rises over the far side of the lake and you're swimming towards it in the first part of the course, which is kind of why we designed the course to run alongside the shore. So if you can't see the buoy
Mm,
in the far end, keep the trees on your right and you'll be roughly going in the right direction. And
yeah.
we got so many canoeists on the water. With
I think you
six
have about
trees
five or six round that bit there,
that
just
section, yeah. They almost form a wall of canoes so they can point people in the right direction. And it's important to as well, because people, if you sign up for a 1,900 meter swim and you get completely lost and swim 2.5K, you've ruined your day. You've
I mean,
certainly
yeah,
made your day
yeah,
very hard for yourself.
yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, so the last thing that I really wanted to touch on is something that was a real bugbear of people, especially around the COVID period, but also it's just sort of it's generally as long as people have been racing, is how people, they'll sign up for an event when it's one of yours or somebody else's, and they'll be training, training, training. And then a week out, they pick out a running injury. They'll email the race organizer and they'll go, I can't race. Can I have my money back, please?
Hmm.
Now, I think a lot of people understand that, the money, not that it hasn't always necessarily already been spent, but you will have covered, you would have spent money on everything, and that money's always sort of been tied up to an extent. I
Yeah.
know that you have a very generous deferral policy, I think. It's a sort of a
We do,
no
yeah. So
questions.
we have like a no quibble deferral policy. So if
Mm,
you email me 8 weeks before the race and say, Graham, I don't want to race, you don't have to give me a reason. Just say I don't want to
mm,
race. Any chance I can defer to next year? We just do a free deferral straight away, and we'll
yeah,
do that 3 years running. So after
yeah,
3 years, I'll go look. We can defer you, but it's going to cost you 20 quid or something to do it
mm,
because it's just a pain in my backside with all the admin of deferring people. If you As you get closer to the race, we commit more to that position.
yeah,
So we assume on the race, if we sell 1,000 slots, we cater for 1,000 slots. 6 weeks out from the race, we've ordered t-shirts, the medals, the aid station supply. We've ordered transition, timing, medical cover, every other provision you could possibly imagine based around
yeah,
a certain volume. So we can do something, but it won't always be free. It's 6 weeks out. So 8 weeks is the official line.
yeah,
5 or 6 weeks out, we can normally do something. As long as you don't email
yeah,
me and act like an ass and go, I want to defer. It's my right to defer. I'm going to do it. If you just go, look,
yeah.
Graham, I'm really sorry. I'm doing the race in 5 weeks' time. I've twisted my ankle. Any chance I can defer? I'll say yes. What we also do for people who are closer is when you enter through the entry system, we partnered up with a third party insurance company called
Yeah.
Xcover. So they will insure your place for it's about a tenner or £12, I think it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
And if you break your ankle the day before the race, or you've got COVID, or your house was burnt down, or you've been posted away with work, or your car's been stolen,
Yeah.
then they'll cover your policy. They'll cover your entry fee for you completely, and you can do that right up to the day after the race if you want. You don't have to claim beforehand. But
Yeah.
then what we typically do is people, if we've committed to a slot and we've printed a bid with their name on it and we can't backfill their position, if they email me a couple of weeks before the race and say, I didn't take the insurance I should have done, but I've twisted my ankle or I've had a cold, I don't think I'll be able to race. I'll just go, no problem. I'll tell you what, if you come along a Marshall, I'll move you over to July race. And we'll
Mm,
try and offset something against the other one. And I think that's kind of the fairest way. We try and accommodate everybody. There's
mm.
sometimes we just can't do it. If you email me on race morning, go overslept, I can't make it, can I have my money? It's going to be annoying. And from a commercial point of view, if you isolate the business side of it, is we do spend their entry fee on their place,
Yeah.
and we can't just if you ask me 3 days before the race, I can't sell that place to someone else.
No.
Because we've already fixed the names with the timing and with the insurers, and we've submitted all the medical details to the medical providers, and we've got your name printed on your bib,
Yeah.
and XYZ, all the things which are individual to a person we can't replace. But we'll always try and help everybody in some format. Whether it's a couple of weeks beforehand and you can offset me moving you from June to July by marshalling for us, then I'll do that.
Yeah.
A little bit give or take, or even just and triathletes we get are typically quite good, but just be polite, just ask nicely. If you email me and go, I want to do this and it's my right to do it, and if you don't, I'm going to sue you, then you'll be met with a not a hard response because I'm not like that, but I'll be less flexible. And if you go, look, I'm really sorry, I know you, please, any chance we can do something, and I'll phone them up and go, look, we can do this, we can do that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can come up with something for you. Same as if we can move people even on race morning. If they've entered a triathlon and they can't run, I can just move them to aquabike, or they're scared of swimming, I'll just move them to bike run. Or
Yep.
if they don't want to do all of it, I can move them to a relay. We
Yeah.
can do all that sort of stuff. We have the flexibility to do that. We try and do it as much as we can.
Yeah.
Because the world changes. You can't fix what you're going to be doing in 2 months' time always. You
Yes.
can't
No.
fix it. You might not pick up you might think, oh, I've had an Achilles problem, it's getting better, I'll be fine to run. And you go for a short run on the first day of race week and suddenly your Achilles is flared up. So we'll just move you to a swim bike. Or if you don't
Yeah.
want to swim, we'll move you. You've got a shoulder injury, we'll move you to a bike run or a relay, or vice versa. You might have entered the aqua bike and go, actually, I really fancy doing the full race. So we'll just move them
Yep.
to the full race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens an awful lot actually.
Yeah. Great stuff. Final question for you. Do you still have spaces for 2025 in your events then?
We do, yeah. We've not gone back. It was we used to be in a lovely pre-COVID, like all events.
Hmm.
The races used to sell out 8 months in advance. I used to have a waiting list of like 1,500 people for each race.
Wow.
And it used to be the bane of my life of people emailing me going, Graham, where am I on the waiting list? Where am I on the waiting list? And chance I can get in. And I used to hate it. And now I look back and go, that was a really nice problem to have. But yeah, the June race, the June 113 is about 75% full now.
Yep.
And then the July Classic is maybe 45%. The July Classic always feels up slower than the June race. But yeah, we do
Yeah.
have slots: swim, bike, run, swim or bike, bike or run, relay.
Fantastic. Well, I
Cool.
hope that a lot of listeners have learned an awful lot from
Yeah,
that.
sorry if I bored everyone to death.
No, I very much doubt it.
In
Well, if
case
they
the
did,
Radio Suits
they'd probably stop
podcast
listening
bored
by now.
everybody.
But but no, it's really, I think it really helps people to see that from the other side. Hopefully, just to see what's involved, not only from a race organizer's point of view, but also sort of marshalling the amount of people's time that goes into putting all these events on.
Yeah,
And hopefully people be, a little bit more sort of understanding if everything isn't absolutely as perfect as they hoped it would be on the day.
yeah.
But what I'll do, I'll stick the link to your website where people can sign up for the events.
Cool. Thank you very much.
So in the show notes. So they are based just south of Cirencester. Accessible via both the M4 and the M5, really, aren't they?
Yeah, equidistant, 15 minutes from each.
Yeah. So nice and accessible. And do you have camping on site for competitors as well?
We have camping on site for competitors. We have free camping for marshals. Even if you're listening to this and you don't want to race, come along a marshal, come and enjoy the day. It's more fun marshalling than racing.
It is. You're less stressed. I mean, you
Yeah,
might have to set a 3 a.m. alarm if you're
yeah,
in
yeah.
one
If
of the
you're on the
first, but
early
it's
shift,
it's worth
yeah,
it.
cool. No, well,
Great.
thank you very much. Thanks for having me along.
Oh, thanks for your time. Thank you for that. And I'm hoping to race in June.
Cool. We will
So
look forward to seeing you. I'll get
hopefully
your
I'll
name
see
on
you
the
then.
trophy now.
And if not, I'm sure I'll be sat there in a high vis pointing somebody telling them the right way to go.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for having me along, Simon, and I will see you soon.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, Graham. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you once again to Graham for coming onto the podcast and sharing his wisdom with all of us. I am going to have a link in the show notes to his website where you can look to sign up for his events, which I also believe he's currently offering a payment plan on in case you need to spread the cost. And I'm also going to include a link to the Faison Triathlon Swim Club down there as well. So thank you once again for listening, and I'll see you all next week for another episode.